Facebook land. I'm hoping it's all working. Last week the picture went like this.
We're horizontal now.
I think it's like
We're,
this now.
it is.
Okay, very good, very good.
Facebook goes sideways a lot anyway.
Yes. Good point. Yes, indeed. So welcome, everyone. So this month's theme is a world that works for everyone. And what I've been doing all month is taking passages from A Sermon by the Sea, which is the last sermon that Ernest Holmes gave in 1959 at Asilomar. And it's such an amazing sermon, so I've been pulling passages from it. And so this week's topic is the God within, and here's this week's passage. Only that which reveals me to myself can be a message to me. Only that which gives me back myself can save me. Only that which leads me to the God within myself can reveal God. Powerful. Yes, yes indeed. So essentially what Ernest Holmes is saying is that as we tune into ourselves, that's where God is. That's that divine essence, that divine intelligence that is contained within us. And so I'm going to break this down and talk about what all he's talking about. Break it down, break it down. So, you know, a good teacher, a good spiritual teacher, a good teaching is one that doesn't ask you to follow them. It doesn't say, follow me, do what I say. Nor does a good teacher say, look outside of yourself for the answers. A good spiritual teacher, a good teaching, is one that says, look within, go within. That's where the answers are. This documentary came out called Kumare. Did anybody see that? This is quite a while ago. So this young Indian man, East Indian man, pretended to be a guru. He called himself Kumare. He grew a beard, he dressed like a guru, and he gathered an enormous following. He said some wise things, and people followed him. And he documented this for about a year or so. And at the end, he gathered everybody in this conference room, and he shaved his beard, and he put on a button-down shirt and jeans and walked in and said, hi, everybody. Of course, people were furious and walked out and stormed out and were crying and upset. But the point of the documentary was how often we look outside of ourselves for the answers.
Yeah.
Tell me what I should do. Tell me how I should handle this. Tell me how I should fix this. We do that as human beings. We're often looking outside of ourselves, asking our friends, asking a spiritual leader, asking, what should I do? And so the point of that is that how often we do that, and truthfully though, our answers are all inside. Our answers come from within us. Because truthfully, we have access to the greatest guru that ever lived, and that is within. That is the greatest guru, is right inside of us. So let's talk about God for a second, or for a few moments. Okay? So God is known by many names, and Eugene brought in some of that in his prayer, so beautifully done. In the Hebrew Bible, Elohim, Yahweh. In Islam, Allah. In Hinduism, Brahma. In Native American and First Nation cultures, the Great Spirit known as Wankantanka. And in Science of Mind, we honor all of those names and many more. Divine intelligence, the universal spirit, love, wisdom, power, joy, the great I am. So many names for God. And it's such an interesting word in our culture because many of us grew up in religions where it was stated or used in ways that didn't work for us. And as we became adults, we sometimes cringe as we hear the word. And perhaps that may still be true for some. Yes, because the way in which it's been used. Now, God isn't a religious word per se. It's a word that has religious connotations, yes, but so much has been piled onto the word. So much. And when we have a little trigger or a cringe around the word, and if that's you, I just invite, because we're going to talk about God a lot in this talk today, me, to just breathe through that. Because whenever we are triggered by anything in our life, it's an opportunity for healing, is it not? So I was talking to a minister at a minister's gathering recently, and in her congregation, people dislike the word so much that she does not use it at all. She's taken it out. And if she ever uses it, they remind her, no, don't use that word. Oh, I'm sorry, I won't use that word. So where I'm coming from, yes, you can substitute it, absolutely. As I gave you lots of names, you can substitute it for, yes? But what I would say to do instead is to look at what needs to be healed within yourself. What needs to be released, what needs to be let go of, and breathe through that. It's a word. It's simply a word. And we add all that meaning to it. We're the ones that do that. Okay. Stay okay over there? The kids? I'm hearing. I think there's a lot of them. And we have a substitute today, so she's probably like, oh, what did I get myself into? Yeah.
That's definitely hard.
Okay. Feel free to. It'll be recorded. It's on Facebook Live. So God is not something to be analyzed. It's not something to intellectualize. I have a very analytical mind. Who has an analytical mind in here? Whose mind? Yes, mine goes lots of different directions. And so we try to figure things out. Well, what is God? What is spirituality? What is? And we try to define it and we try to figure it out. But truthfully, God is not something to analyze. God is not something to figure out. It is something to experience. It is something to feel. It is something that we can access in those quiet moments of contemplation, in those quiet moments of connecting to nature, in those quiet moments of prayer time. It's to be felt, not to be analyzed. And so in those moments, to shut off the analytical mind as best as we can, not always easy to do, and to drop into that place within us. And so, Ernest Holmes, just to bring us back to the passage, only that which reveals me to myself can be a message to me. Only that which gives me back myself can save me. Powerful statement. Again, it's not outside. It's not outside of us. What can give us back ourselves is connecting to that divine within us. It's as if in those moments when we're so deeply connected that God within us says, hello, dear one. Let me introduce you to yourself. Let me introduce you to that beauty and that grace and that infinite intelligence that is always right here. Right here. Just waiting for us to connect. Waiting. And the more that we practice that, and it takes practice to do this. Yes. Yes, indeed. But the more that we are willing to commune with the divine, the more that we are willing to open ourselves to the divine, we then have an experience of being more of a spiritual being than a human being. Yes, we are human beings, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not the other way around. And we forget that. We forget that. And so the more that we can tap in, the more that we can connect with that divinity, even for 10 minutes a day, we remember who we are. And we can access that divine nature and even ask questions of it to guide us in our life, to support us in our life. And so the test of a true, solid teaching is one that continuously brings you back to yourself. Only that is what can save us. There is no person, alive or dead, who can save us. Nobody. Only we can save ourselves. By going within, by connecting. I bet every single one of you have a question to ask about your life, about your path, whether it's related to health or career or your spiritual life. All of us have a question to ask. What is that question? And you have this guru right right here within you to ask for guidance, for support, for assistance. You know, and anytime we feel sad, anytime we feel alone, anytime we feel fearful, we have then separated ourselves from the divine. In that moment, we have created absolute separation. We have forgotten once again that we are always connected. We are always one with that divine presence. There is never separation. And so that's a clue when we have moved into that space of negativity, into that space of sadness or overwhelm or whatever emotion we are feeling, we have separated. How do we bring ourselves back? With the breath. The breath is the most powerful thing we can do. Close our eyes and just breathe, bringing ourselves back. Bringing ourselves back. You know, and as babies, we come into the world and we are so open and we're so connected. We just came from God. We are just these open vessels, so wanting to love and be loved. That is who we are. And if you have grandchildren or children, you know this. And as we mature and grow and move along our lives, we move further and further and further away from that knowing. And then we come to a community like this, or we read spiritual books, or we tap in and we start to pray more, we start to meditate more. This is why we talk about these tools and practices. And it then reintroduces us once again to the truth that we are. In this last part of Ernest Holmes' passage, only that which leads me to God within myself can reveal God. That is when God is fully revealed to us, when we are in that space, that quiet space, that open-hearted space. We are in that deep contemplation, meditation, prayerful time. That's when God is finally revealed to us. God is not outside. Yes, God is contained in all things. But if you truly want to experience it, it takes quiet. It takes getting out of our head and moving into that beautiful space. And some of you may know what this feels like. When you are fully connected to God, it is bliss. It is absolute bliss. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Some of you know what I'm talking about? It is extraordinary. Now, it may not happen every time. It may not happen in every time you sit for meditation. Okay, I want to connect, I want to connect. And it may not always happen. And then all of a sudden, boom, your heart is blasted open. It just brings a smile to your face. And it truly is bliss. But it takes practice. It takes dedicated practice to experience that. Those who haven't experienced it, do you want to experience it? Do you want to feel that? Yes, indeed. Yes. It's pretty amazing. And, you know, sometimes we need a little help. For me, it's music. I am constantly downloading music. I hear a song and a movie, and I'm getting out my phone to download it. I am constantly, Leanne sends me beautiful music. I am always looking for music. Yeah, because that's what opens my heart, and that's what connects me to God, and that's what helps me center myself and connect within. It might be candles, it might be incense, whatever that is for you. Nature is another amazing thing, yes? That opens us. So healing. And the more that we dedicate practices like this, the more we can connect and commune with God on a regular basis, and the more we turn within for our answers, the more we ask God to support us through whatever it is we're going through. And we feel it. We feel it. I'm going to read a passage from a book called One Soul, One Love, One Heart by John Welshans. And this passage is all about connecting, communing with God. We can see God as our Father, our Mother, or as the one behind the many. We can see it as the one light. We can, as in Tibetan Buddhism, see it as the void or the clear light. It is the everything and the nothing. We can find it in the emptiness. We can find it in the fullness. We may see it first in the eyes of a being like Mahatma Gandhi or the Dalai Lama. We may touch it in the powerful, soft warmth of a candlelight service on Christmas Eve, or the Muslim call to prayer at the dawning of a new day. We may feel it in the Grand Canyon or the majestic peaks of the Himalayas. We may find it in a moment of silent reflection sitting by a river. We may hear it in the singing of birds. We may encounter it in a moment of meditation. God is everywhere, in everything, and everyone. Yeah. So truly, that divinity, that God within, is found in all places, within ourselves. And as we stop to take a breath, as we stop to contemplate, the more that we go within, the more we are willing to do that, the more we can experience heaven, truly heaven on earth. I want to share a quick samurai and monk story. In the Zen tradition, there is this story of a samurai and a monk. And this samurai had practiced his skills for years and honed his warrior skills. And then one day he said, I want to have more spiritual awareness. So he heard about this monk who lived in this temple, who was known for his compassion and his kindness and his wisdom and his clear high teachings. And so he journeyed up to the temple to meet with this monk. And he walks into the temple and he bows in reverence. Oh, dear monk, I so respect you, and I'm just so honored to be here. And the sweet monk smiles and says, what can I do for you, my son? And he said, well, I think I'd like to learn something new related to spiritual awareness. And he said, okay, what would you like to learn? And he said, I'd like to learn about heaven and hell. He said, okay. Suddenly the monk's face became stern and cold and angry. And he looked at the samurai and he said, what could I possibly teach you? Look at your clothes. You're a mess. Your hair is a mess. You're fat. You're disgusting. You smell. Your breath is foul. How could I possibly teach you anything? You are a disgrace to all samurais. The samurai became enraged, his face crimson red with such anger. He pulls his sword from the sheath and he holds it to the neck of the monk. The monk looks at him and says, that's hell. He puts his sword back in his sheath. He falls to his knees and begins to sob as he recognized the teaching, the wise teaching of this monk, and that the monk was so fearless, he was willing to impart this teaching in such a fearless way. And as he falls to his knees and he begins to cry and he bows his head and honors the monk and thanks him for his teaching. And the monk smiles sweetly again and says, and that's heaven.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I love that story because it really, heaven is something that we have access to simply by how we see the world, by how we connect to God so deeply within ourselves. It is always there. That heavenly place is right there, accessible to us all. Paramahansa said this: the greatest love you can experience is in communion with God and meditation. The love between soul and spirit is the perfect love, the love you are all seeking. When you meditate, love grows. If you strive to love all and meditate more deeply, there will come into your life such a love as you have never dreamed possible. Yes, indeed. And so, some homework for you as you go into your week. Truly communing with God starts with breath, starts with quiet, and then asking questions. And here are some questions to take into your meditation. How can I connect to God in a deeper way? Just asking that question and taking yourself inward and see what reveals itself to you. How can I feel the presence of God within me? What a great question to ask. How can I feel it? How can I experience it? And if you are one who is struggling with the Word God, and you would like to have a breakthrough in that, you would like to shift that, how can I heal the wounds of my past so that I can fully connect with God? So are you ready to take that into your homework this week?
Yes.
Yeah? Very good. Yeah, so let's close out. Let's say our affirmation together one more time. I release and I let go and connect to the God within. And so let's move into prayer. I ask the practitioners to stand in high consciousness. So yes, beginning by taking a breath and just connecting into that God within, into that divine intelligence that is always there, that spark of divine light that is within the center and core of our being. And so as we breathe in, we feel that. And I'm knowing that as we go out into the week, that we practice this communing with the divine. We practice connecting with God. We practice seeing God within ourselves and seeing God within all beings. And as we do this, it transforms the energy around us, and it transforms our community, and it transforms the world. And so I am knowing that as we do our own work and as we do our own practice, that this is indeed occurring for each of us. And so I just give such great thanks for the unfolding that is happening for each and every one of us. This journey of communing even more, this journey of connecting to the divine. And I feel such gratitude for that, for I know that each one of us are expanding and growing inside of that. Opening our heart more, feeling that bliss. And as we feel bliss, it goes out and touches and inspires and heals everyone around us. And so I just let this go, and I just allow God to do God's perfect work. And I just say thank you, thank you, thank you, Spirit, for working your magic through each of us. And we just ground this in together by saying, and so it is.